Next up, we have Kevin Holland versus Alex Oliveira. Holland coming in as a big favorite, negative 330. Oliveira coming in as a plus 260 underdog. Fern, how'd you break down this fight?
So I'm a fan of both of these guys. Both of them have great striking. In looking at their previous fights and their previous outcomes, Holland, he still has that fight, the last fight that it shows that, it was the accidental clash, headbutt. Wasn't really close, but it affected him, and he was having good results up until that moment. So I looked at one of his fights against Jacare, who many of you guys may or may not know is just grappling great. He is amazing. He is a person who I'm surprised didn't end up winning gold. One of those great grapplers, great all-around fighters like a Damian Maia, Brazilian. And one of the things that stands out about Holland is he has an 81-inch reach. It's ridiculous. He's like, I even went back and looked at his fight against Marvin Vettori. Vettori had I think 73-inch reach. So he's got ridiculously lanky arms. So in Jacare's, in the fight against Jacare, I was looking at his ground game, like how did he do against somebody who has great ground game? And, he was able to do elbows from the back, elbows from the sprawl. He grabs the glove, like when he was in bottom of the guard, he was grabbing the wrist and then kind of pulling it to the side and then swinging with the other hand. So kind of like he was what's that toy that's like the paddle ball on the rubber band that you hit and it comes back, whatever it's called. That's what he looked like he was doing with Jacare. He would just pull him with his left hand, hit him with his right, just bam, double. And it was super interesting. It definitely stunned Jacare and got him doing some things that I didn't expect him to. He ended up finishing Jacare from bottom guard. Basically he pushed Jacare, puts his hands on his hips, kind of pushed him up, and then leaned forward as Jacare was the one against the cage, and then just started pummeling him down into the cage. And very highlight reel knockout. Against Vettori, he had great kicks at range, fast, using his reach. It was a short notice fight, so Vettori went from being an underdog to a favorite, and you could see the difference in skill levels at that point. Holland has definitely tried to implement wrestling into his training. He's been known to go train with DC and his wrestling team, trying to improve his skills. They mentioned that he's a BJJ black belt, which was weird to me. I definitely saw his ground skill against Jacare, but not against Vettori, not against, Derek Brunson. Does great job of putting his feet on the hips, enough to just kind of push off and stand up. Great guard reversal at one point. He had his feet on the hips, like he was going to go for an armbar, and just ended up rolling forward with him. It was a really interesting watch. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that kind of reversal from bottom of guard. Alex Cowboy Rivera, great person to me. Reminds me of Cowboy Cerrone. He's just a Brazilian version of him. Somebody who is known to fight and bring the fight. I analyzed his last fight against Nico Price. He does a great job of leaning back and countering with the right hand. Reverse the cage, the clinch against the cage into a trip. And he just does a good job of countering. He caught a kick, threw a straight right. In top guard and side control, he dominated. So this to me is going to be kind of the proving point between both of them, is going to be how's Holland going to do if Oliveira gets on top of him, because against Nico Price, who ended up winning that fight, Oliveira was able to hold him down and control him. And Holland doesn't have the record or the kind of success that Nico Price did, and Oliveira was able to control him really easily. On the bottom, I can see Holland going, into guard, using his elbows, feet on the hips, trying to stand it up. So this is a fight where I'm excited to. I hope it goes to the ground. Their stand-up, I think, is pretty even. Holland with the reach should, be able to land a little more. I want to see it on the ground because their strengths are in each other's positions. I like Holland, young guy, up and coming. Oliveira, older guy. This is hard to pick because I'm a favorite. I'm a fan of both. They're both my favorite fighters. And Holland, I want to keep going up And Oliveira, I want him to stay up, like, and not get cut, not get released, because he's just not having success lately. But in continuing with the theme lately is going with the older guy, living vicariously. Go Cowboy. What do you think, Colby?
Okay. Interesting. So, as far as the odds go, I don't know, I guess, why Holland is such a big favorite. I do think that he's favored to win. But I think you pointed out something earlier about him being a BJJ black belt. And I think one of Holland's problems in his last few fights is that he's been way too comfortable on his back, maybe because he has that black belt where he's just very comfortable on his back and he's going to, try to get in position to go for a submission. The problem is when you're going against a really good wrestler who's, very good at putting on that top pressure and staying safe from arm bars and, some of the basic submissions, it's not a super exciting fight, and you end up losing. The guy who's on his back for 5 minutes in a round tends to be the one who loses, no matter how good you are, at BJJ. When you get to the higher levels, now if you're going to, there's a mismatch in skill, or a guy's just got terrible grappling defense. Yeah, you might want to hang out on your back and throw up submissions. It's not like you can't win from your back, and we have seen even at the highest levels, you can win off your back. It's just when it comes to the odds, the guy who's on his back in the higher levels of the UFC is going to be the guy who loses. And so what I'm curious to see is, has Holland learned his lesson? Because I feel like that's what he did in his last few fights. You mentioned that one with Jacare. That was the exception, right? But yeah. I think, was it in the 2 fights following? He had 2 fights since then where he spent a lot of time on his back. So, I think Holland, as much as he talks and might seem a little bit arrogant going into the ring, even while he's fighting, he's talking smack and having fun. I do think he is a humble guy, because after his loss, the one following Jacare, I saw him in some interviews, and it seemed like he was really open to feedback. He really doesn't want to let down his team. He's not the joker necessarily that he kind of fronts in the ring and when he's fighting and playing around and having fun. I think he does take it seriously, and I think he has done some analysis, hopefully, and he's going to make some changes. And if he is taken down, as much as I'd like to see it, I would also like to see, Holland either get a reversal or get back to the feet and him try to do a takedown and be the one on top applying pressure. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing how this one's going to turn out.